And a specific example is maybe XML. And while ActionScript has a pretty robust XML object, with quite a bit of functionality, there are one or two things that it doesn't have. And an example is, XSLT capabilities. And if I was still a C or C++ developer, if I want to do some XSLT, I'd probably get libxslt, libxml, write a little bit of code, and call it a day. In Flash or Air today, there's really not a lot that you can do other than maybe get your own XSL implementation and sort of write it yourself in ActionScript. So this C here, really doesn't do me that much good on Adobe's platform, but maybe it could. I've been working on an experimental technology that can take C and C++ code and actually translate that into ActionScript. And you can take that ActionScript and you can actually use it in a Swift to develop Flash apps and Air apps and so forth. And I'll show you sort of a real quick demo of going back to, thank you. So sticking with the sort of XSLT, I've got this simple application, and don't let the impressive visuals fool you, it really is quite simple. So I'm just going to grab out of Word document here, an RTF document rather, style sheet. I'm just going to paste it in what is really just a text field component. Grab a little bit of data over here, and paste it in this text field, and I'm just going to hit the button here, and I'm going to basically call what is the ActionScript equivalent of libxslt, and I'm going to have it act on the XML, the style sheet, create a string, and jam that into a text field as HTML text. So this is actually live. I'll just change something real quick. I'm good buddies with him, so I can work on a first name basis, and you can see it actually does go through and not can. Woo! So what I've essentially done is I've taken the C source for libxslt, libxml, and I've run my tool on it, and I've gotten some ActionScript as output. And for this application, I sort of wrote a little bit of not exactly pretty ActionScript code that sort of bridges the gap between the C and the ActionScript. But once I've done that, I can do something along the lines of extending the XML object to make doing an XSLT transformation basically the single line you see at the bottom of the slide here. So, there's a fair bit of nifty stuff in C and C++, obviously there's the XSLT library, there are various other libraries. But another sort of interesting category to keep the non-C and C++ fans interested is interpreters for various scripting languages are actually written in C and C++. So once you have some C and C++ capabilities, it's not a stretch to be able to say, well, let's take the Ruby interpreter, the PHP interpreter, etc., and sort of port that to ActionScript and be able to leverage, PHP, Python, Lua, etc. code in your actual Flash and Air apps. So that's actually pretty cool. But once you start talking about something more complicated like an interpreter, it's not just, calling some XSLT function. It's kind of a whole program. And in C, you have your sort of one function that runs for the duration of the program. And that's obviously incompatible with the sort of Flash development model where you have little snippets of code that sort of respond to events rather than just run all the time. So the tool set that I've developed will actually take your synchronous C code and convert it to asynchronous AS3 code to keep it from blocking the UI while it's running. And a sort of interesting side effect of that is you can sort of approximate multi-threading with this technique. And so I've got a quick demo of that too. Actually, let me show really one more slide. This code is not, you don't have to read this, but the sort of key takeaway is it's calling pthread create, which is a C multi-threading library function that actually will create a thread. And what this does is this little program sort of spins off a thread for every fractal that it's rendering. And so I took this and I actually ported it to Flash. And so you can see it's kind of rendering all the fractals at, sort of different speeds depending on the level of complexity. But you can see they're all sort of running. I can drag them around. It's not, sort of freezing the UI or anything along those lines. So that's pretty cool too. So those are some kind of, nifty demos that kind of illustrate the point, but I went ahead and I ported a slightly more complex application. you guys might recognize.
No!
I've actually integrated it with Flash a little bit. You can see some of the console messages are sort of scrolling in on Flash-based widgetry here. So that's pretty cool too. So there's actually, quite a bit of C code that is, pretty interesting to port. Quake is kind of one example, but I think more realistically, there are a lot of interesting libraries. There's, encoding libraries for various media. There's, various internet protocols, image processing, et cetera, and as I mentioned, sort of the interpreters. And potentially your sort of existing legacy logic or business logic, or in the case where you have maybe say PHP, you could imagine porting some server-side code actually into your Swift, which is especially interesting with Air and being able to sort of take your sort of whole application to the client side. And as I also showed, rather than having to sort of dink with all this C and C++, you can sort of make nice wrappers on this and actually have it play pretty cleanly with the rest of your ActionScript code. That's about it.